Hello, Michelle. I am
Yeah.
very glad to have you here as a guest today in the I Am
Yes, I'm
series of
glad to be
interview.
here.
We like to give people a glimpse into the universe of different original people. And
Hmm.
I invite you, our listeners, if you have one insight in our relaxed conversation of today, please click the link in the description and donate a small amount of money to the hospitals in Romania, which are in need now. Welcome, Michelle. Good to see you.
Thank you. Yes, good to see you too.
For start, I would challenge you to tell us all who you are in a quick, short presentation in 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, my name is Michelle, and Michele Mitchell, and in summary, I'm really just a person that cares about other people. I just happen to also be an artist and a designer, and I'm an illustrator and a writer. But I use those things, those skills, those techniques, my gifts, in order to help other people, focusing on like human rights and social justice issues in the world. That's me.
How did you start? What did attract you to towards art?
Hmm. You know, I've always been the artist person. So, like in school in elementary, I would take part in different art competitions, but that's not where I was going. Like, my parents really wanted me to be in the medical field. My mom was in the medical field and also a teacher. But on the side, I was always doing musical theater. I was always a part of the school plays, church plays. I would just paint for fun, just to express myself, especially writing. I've been journaling and doing poetry since I was young. So it was always there. But for college, they kept pointing me towards either medical or engineering. And I think when I finally decided, no, this is the way I have to go, it was when I was in school doing mechanical engineering, and I realized I can do this. I'm doing well. I'm getting straight A's, but there's something more that I need to do. I need to produce more, and not just engines. I wanted to produce things that were happening in my brain, like I really wanted to get those visual pictures out of my brain and into the world. And so that's when I made the switch. Yeah, 100%.
What keeps your engine running in creating art?
Ooh, that's such a good question. I would say knowing that what I do is going to help someone else. I'm very aware of the fact that I live in a world filled with other people. Sometimes we get so closed off to ourselves that we forget there's another person to the right of us, there's another person to the left of us, in front, behind, people that are looking for us to succeed so that they can be inspired, people that went before us trying to pull us with them. And I'm very aware of that. And so because I know that there's always someone in need, because I know that there's always someone, a younger person, maybe looking up to me to let them know that they can also make it out of their, tough situations. I think that is what keeps my engine going. Anytime I feel like, I don't know, maybe no one's gonna like my art or whatever, I remember the people that I'm trying to help. I remember that young girl or that young boy that may be trafficked. I remember the people that are sick, those that don't have access to food. I remember them. So because they're so like right in front of my mind, um, I'm always energetic, or I always have the energy to keep going. Yeah.
And how does it feel for you when you are in the middle of the creative process?
It's scary. Sometimes I'm working on something, so I'll have an idea. And I'm like, ooh, that's an idea. I go to my desk, or I go to my, like just a clear board, depending if it's a sketch that I have to draw out first, or if it's an idea, like a book outline that I'm writing. And I will start. And as I'm in the midst of it, I'm like, oh, this is good. This is really good. But then it's scary because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to share this. People are going to be able to say something about it. And what if what they say isn't always positive? That's the part that it like switches. So it's fun, the creating it, but then midway, I realize once this is done, I have to release it and let it go. And when I let it go, people have the opportunity to be not so nice. They can be mean, you know, and I've seen a lot of other artists go through it on social media, and it's not a place that I really like to be, like looking at all those comments and people saying mean things, but I get over it because I remember the people that I'm trying to help. But yeah, it's fun, and then it gets scary, and then I release it.
So the creating is fun and the showing is scary.
Yes. Yes.
How when did you started to show your pieces of art? Was there a time when you only created for yourself?
Yeah, I would say for most of my like primary and secondary schooling, I was mainly creating for myself outside of maybe art class. But when I have like now I have boxes of journals and sketchbooks and drawings and stuff that I sometimes go back to and look at and like, oh my gosh, I was so free to create and it didn't matter what anyone said. Um, so that was the time I created for myself. And then when I got into university the second time around, because remember I started with engineering and then switched, one of my professors really just opened my mind up to painting, which I didn't do for a long time because I was focused on like science and math for engineering. Um, and I just started painting at home just because, using the techniques that I learned in class, I started doing it on my own. And that is when I felt like, wow, I can do this. So I would say definitely when I was younger, and then there was like this huge gap of time. But when I finally went into a more artistic program, that really opened my mind up to being able to create um, whenever I want, not just for you know, to get an A or something, just really just for the love of creating.
And how is the process now for you as an artist and not tied to the A's and to the educational process? How do you start a creative piece? How do you reveal it? Where can we find your art?
Oh, okay. So I will start, usually I don't start right in the sketchbook. I'll start just writing out concepts. So something comes to my mind, like recently I realized that there's a huge issue with women's reproductive health around the world, like women actually getting help, medical care when they're in the process of pregnancy, during pregnancy, and then after they give birth, especially in areas where women don't have that much money to get like good doctors and access to medical care. Some of them are walking for miles just to get to a clinic. So I read that article. So it was just an article I read. And then in my head, I'm like, people need to know about this so that they can give to these nonprofit organizations. Said, let's do a poster series campaign. And so that was just a thought. So I just start writing down what are the points that I want to make sure people understand. Women have to walk miles in order to get to a clinic. Women don't have access to the proper medication. So just writing out what it is that I want people to know, to be more aware. That's when they say raise awareness. And then I'll start to like sketch out little small like poster size diagrams in my sketchbook. Say like, is it a woman, like what if it's just her? What if it's her and a child? What if it's, so I'll just sketch out different things that these posters could look like on a smaller scale. Then when I really feel like I've got something, I'll then go to, say, my tablet with my pencil. So I use like an iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil, or I can go to my computer and do like a rough digital sketch outward, or maybe I'll use paint and paper, watercolor. It depends how I feel at that point. That's when I'll like try and like really flesh out the ideas. And then after that, depending on where it's gonna, if I'm throwing an exhibition, sometimes I'll throw an exhibition just to raise awareness. And then like something like this, like I'll have like a larger artwork and put it on an easel with facts around it so that people can read as they walk through the exhibition. So that will be like, that's one way that I go about the creative process.
So it has a strong idea behind it, and
Yeah.
the art follows, and the manifesto is strong for people to understand. And what do you expect at the end for the visitors to do?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so number one, for them to be aware and like leave, say, the space or leave my website, because you know I also share via website and social media, more aware than they came. So did they leave understanding or knowing something that they did not know before they went to my site or before they attended my exhibition? Number two, I always leave them with something that they can do moving forward. So to learn more, read this, or to take part now that some people connect like right away and they're like, oh, I understand the issue. I want to volunteer, or I want to help out by giving my finances to this organization or that organization. Or even like I wrote a book called Uncovering the Tracks, where it has like both illustrations and like, so artwork and writing. And at the end of the book, I give them many ways to get involved. Now that you know the signs, what do you do when you see the signs? Call this person, send a report here. And then I also design like cards, smaller cards, almost like the size of a business card, where they can keep with them. So if they forget, like, oh my gosh, I can see this is an issue. What do? I forgot. They have the card. Call this person, email this person, whatever. So yeah, I want them to be aware and then equip them with the tools so that they feel like they could do something too, you know, and they don't just have to run back to me or another activist to do the work, you know. Yeah, definitely want something to take place afterwards.
It's very actionable art.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
How did you get into volunteering and helping people
I
in
would
this way?
I would say my mom. Yeah. So my mom was and is an activist. And my first protest was at 2 years old. So, so it was in Chicago, Chicago in the United States, depending on where people are watching this. And um, I don't remember what it was that we were like protesting for, but I do remember my mom, she always repeats that situation for me. She's like, I remember when you were walking with us, because I was so little, you know, and everyone's marching and, you know, you have the chants and the signs. And I would say, we're fired up, take no more, fired up, take no more. And I'm like, what was I saying? And she said, the words were, we're fired up, we won't take no more. We're fired up, we can't take no more. And I've told this story many times, but it's so real to me, like that it started there. You know, I think my mom was the one to plant that seed, because she was fighting for the rights of other people. So I grew up seeing her fight for people to get their housing back. I grew up seeing her fight for people to have access to medical care in communities that, you know, we just didn't have the money. And when you don't have the money, people kind of don't pay as much attention to your community. And a lot of people get sick and they're homeless for things that we could have avoided if we just helped them. And so I saw my mom doing that, and I think that's where it started. But by the time I became my own woman or an adult, I was able to just do stuff on my own. So I just kept going, and I got um, heavily into like domestic violence, community service. I would say domestic violence, academic tutoring to students that have like at risk, they call it. So if you're at risk, maybe you're in a household that's not the best environment for your education and for your physical and emotional and mental well-being. So like tutoring those students in the city. So I just started, and dance. I started volunteering with young women with dance a lot more to give them a sense of like self-confidence and belonging.
So you are teaching them art and dance?
Yeah, so I will do art, dance, but because of my science and math, that whole academic background, I would tutor in algebra, geometry, calculus, history, English. Yeah, I would just
You have a whole palette of
right,
competencies.
right.
Okay. What was the most rewarding moment of helping someone?
Mm, I think there are several. Some that stick out to me is when, like, as an academic tutor, so just strictly studies, for me to bump into those kids years afterwards, they remember me on the street, like just literally, I'm say in Harlem, New York, in or Manhattan in the city, and someone will bump into me and they're like, Miss Michelle, look, I got into this school, I got into this university, and I remember when you helped me and you wouldn't let me give up. There's another person who he was having some issues in school and kept, you'll go from like one grade to the next, and he wasn't able to keep going to the next grade. And I realized sometimes they just need someone to believe in them. And I refuse to not believe in him, like I'm like, nope, you're going to make it, you're going to do it. And we just looked at learning in a different way. Not everyone can learn the same way. And I think sometimes our school systems keep it the same exact way for every student. And some don't make it because you're not helping them with the way that they learn. And so he made it, and he went to the next grade, and then he was in school. So just seeing like what happens when you put time and you commit your time to these younger people. And on the other end, I don't know everyone. I don't know where everyone is, but the few moments where I've actually been able to hear, I did it or I made it, those are the times when I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Even now, like people that attend like my lives or something that I've done, like the exhibition or whatever, they'll message me months after or even a couple years after and say, ever since I went to your exhibition or when I watched your live or came to your talk, it made me do this, whatever this is. And now I'm this, so basically they're just sharing like, I was inspired to do something that I never thought I could do. So those are those moments where I'm like, wow, thank you. Life-changing. It's life-changing for them, but it's really life-changing for me because it shows that I'm on the right track.
Do you think what inspires them is seeing you, how you succeed and how you do the work in the live or in the exhibition?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
how do you contaminate them?
Well, from what people tell me, it's because I'm so like sometimes I have to like try and like bring my excitement down, because as soon as I'm talking about something I'm like really passionate about, I'm like, we can do it and let's go. And like, so my energy level is like really high. And I think that's helpful for people to see, because I'm doing something that's not exactly typical for my community, like I'm first generation American, and the dream is, you know, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be, I don't know, anything but an artist, you know, like it's not what people really tell you to go after. And so when people see, one, that I'm doing something that wouldn't be the obvious choice, especially for like finances and, you know, your future and everything like that, then they see that I'm continuing without someone forcing me to. I'm not doing this because my job is saying, you have to come and create this artwork. I'm doing this on my own. Like I'm creating this on my own. So when people hear that, and when I think I'm so clear about why I do what I do, and that we have to care about each other. Like I stress that so much. You have to care about the person that's next to you, your neighbor, you know, your fellow neighbor, I call it. Anyone in the world is your fellow neighbor. And just stressing that, I think that's what like lights people up. And also believing in people. Like since from my live last Friday, I've been getting messages about people. I finished your workbook and I realized that, you know, I was really not making moves because I was afraid, or because I really gave into my own self-doubt. And they're like, but because of you and watching you, now I feel like I can continue. And people, even from the quest that I was on, the Speak and Inspire quest, people, I think they were on like day 1 or day 4, and they saw my final day recap, like just to express what the experience was like. And they're like, okay, they said I was slacking off, but now I want to go forward because because you're so energetic, and you know, you make me want to keep going. So I think it's just how I present like the information that I'm trying to share, but then also being honest about it. Like I really believe in what I'm doing, and that I has to, like, I guess it comes through like my voice, my expression, everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it comes from the inside, and
Yeah.
your energy is delivering it in a gorgeous way. How was your life in its lowest moments? Where
Mm.
did you get stuck? What was hard for you?
I would say the first thing I think of is as a teenager. I had moments where, although I was always really active, always really like silly and hyper and joyful and jumping around everywhere. I had a lot of like sadness and anger at one point. And I know when I meet people and I share this with them, they're like, what? You? No. You angry? No. But yeah, it was very internal. So it wasn't anger that I expressed, you know, so that's why everyone like can't believe it when I say it to them, but it was very internal. I was bullied a lot, and I was that person that would like jump in the middle of something when someone else is being bullied, but when it came time for me to like defend myself, I would never defend myself. And and then also being surrounded by people that would say really hurtful things to me growing up, adults that would speak really negative statements to me about like being good for nothing or worthless, or you're never gonna grow up to be anything. And just those statements, when you constantly hear these things over and over and over, especially as a younger person, it's almost like it becomes your truth. So then I would live, and it's like one point my teachers are saying, you're great, you're such an amazing student. But then I would go home or be around another community center, and the kids and the grown-ups and just all this really hurtful like information just going into my brain. And I just really got tired of it, and I became suicidal. So but I really, you know, I don't know what everyone's like faith beliefs or spiritual beliefs are here, but I really believe that God opened up for me this another understanding that you're here for a reason. Your life means something. Your existence is on purpose. You're not a mistake. You're not an accident. And all those words about you being ugly and worthless and good for nothing, those are lies. And so I just literally woke up one day after really wanting to end my life and trying to end my life. And I just stopped in the middle of it. And it was really like, I would say, a divine intervention. And from that day on, though, I started to live, like really live and go. And then I would notice people that had what I had in them. They didn't show it externally, but for some reason I would be able to see when someone's really hurting, when someone's really experiencing that internal anger and pain. And I started, you know what? I'm going to fight for, those that are experiencing suicide and depression, suicidal thoughts and depression on their own. So I started volunteering with the American Suicide Foundation, American Prevention of Suicide. So, yeah, that
Was
I
it,
would
was it
motivate.
hard for you at first to help the suicidal, or was it completely close your suicidal wound when you started?
So I didn't even know it was an opportunity until I got older, like until I got into maybe my like early 20s, or like late teens, early 20s, because I was still in school dealing with it. Although I chose to live, I was still around it. Nothing else changed. I changed. Like my mindset is what changed. And then when I finally got to university and saw that there were opportunities to volunteer in this way, I think maybe I would say 19 or 20, when the opportunity presented itself. I didn't even know this suicide prevention foundation existed. I didn't know. It was something that came up. They're like, oh, there's a walk, just like a breast cancer walk. It was a walk for that, to raise funds to prevent suicides, so that people can do more research, schools can have more education about what's going on, and teachers could be more aware of like the signs for their students. That's when I found out. And my first walk was like, it wasn't painful, but my heart was heavy, because I realized that I was surrounded by families that could have been my family, because they were there because their family members committed suicide. And then I'm there as a survivor. And I almost didn't want to say, because sometimes you open that wound for other people, but then they would say, how did you hear about it? And I said, well, I actually used to be a suicidal teenager. And then they would stop and they go, thank you for living. And
You are an inspiration.
right.
So you didn't work directly with persons who tended to commit suicide?
Later on. So that, yeah, not for the walks, but then I started to, but not on purpose. Like I wasn't on the call for like the hotline or anything. It just happened to be that I think another one of those divine intervention things where wherever I go, I would be working on, say it's academics, but I would notice a student
Mm-hmm.
that
You
displayed some
recognize
kind
the
of,
signs and you
right.
prevent it.
Right, by having talks. As a teen, once I decided to not commit suicide, I also started in high school noticing certain classmates of mine that also exhibited similar signs. And thank God they're all alive now. They've all like decided to turn around. In college too, I had a friend that was on the verge of like who attempted twice, and he's fine now. So I think it's not like I didn't do it as like a job or anything. It just happened that once I got out of my own place, my own dark place, I started noticing or recognizing, you said, the signs, and helping others get out of their dark places, and not just myself, because I didn't have all the counseling knowledge. So I would help them by being a support, but I would have to point them toward professional help.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would be way too much for me, especially I wasn't educated in that area. I just
What
have a personal experience.
What does life means to you, Michelle, after that?
Life. Oh,
After
life.
that, trying to to suicide.
Yeah. Life is so important. Life is so important. It is literally like the most precious gift you can ever receive, like ever. And the same way you'll receive a gift like, I don't know, a wedding ring, or, you know, a necklace that was handed down from generation to generation to generation. You know, those really precious gifts. The same way you take care of it, you clean it, you put it in this nice box, all of that. I think that is how we should view life. It is to be taken care of, it's to be nurtured, to be cared for, to be treated as precious, because it's not something that you can throw in the garbage, take back out, you know, or you cut it up and you piece it together again yourself. And I know sometimes people feel ripped, they feel broken, and we do have to piece ourselves back together. I've heard those phrases, but the way you care for your life shouldn't be something that you just throw away and you can just get it back any other time. Like, think of it as, this is what I have, this is all I have, and I need to use it 100% the best way that I can, you know. Yeah.
So how do you live a meaningful life? What is the way, your way of
Mm-hmm.
living a meaningful life?
Meaningful life, I would say always being present, or as being as present as I can be. Not always looking to my past mistakes, and not always trying to look to the future, but being present. So like what happened in my past, it helps inform things about me. It helps me realize things about myself and what needs to change or what should stay the same. And then looking to the future, it's great because I'm like, that's where I'm going. I'm going to help even more people, yada, yada. But being present right now, if I don't take time to be present right now, I'll miss the relationships that I have now. Meaning like my friends, my family, my fiance, like I'll miss out on those really good moments. One of my best friends, my closest girlfriend, she reached out to me and said on her campus, one of her peers was violated. And so if I was just like, go, 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 I wouldn't have stopped to ask her anything. But I stopped and I said, okay, how are you feeling about their violation? And then she's like, mad. Okay, let's dig into that a little bit more. If I was, you know, always on the go, 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 I wouldn't have even asked. She just said what she said, and I would have left it at that. But a meaningful life is to be present, to see those moments where I'm able to be a help to someone else. Because if I'm not creating, if I'm not doing, I think I will feel like it's meaningless, you know? But I really feel like we're all called to be loving towards one another. If the way that I communicate with you isn't out of love, then why am I communicating with you? You know, if it's going to bring anything but love and positivity and goodness, then I'm not being helpful at all. So I should just keep my mouth shut. But if it's going to bring love, then keep speaking and keep, you know, some people should just keep their mouth shut because they're not really sharing anything that's beneficial for the world. But if you are, I think that's a meaningful life. It's filled with meaning. So many lives are depending on us. You know, we think I'm just one person, but no, you're one person, but so many people can really benefit from you being the best you possible.
What makes you so powerfully engaged in um, sharing this positive spirit and helping?
Mm-hmm. I would say self-awareness is a huge part. Um, I've been hearing this word a lot from like because I do have a job outside of like my art and stuff. And I've heard it from my managers. I've heard it from directors of different nonprofits I've volunteered at. And they said I'm very self-aware. So when you're aware of like what's going on with you, and you're aware of what drives you, what gives you energy, another phrase is like what makes you tick. When you're aware of that, then you're able to just like move on that. Like I'm aware that people respond to how I am. So I need to keep being who I am, you know, like I'm aware of the fact that my artwork is it touches people in different ways, you know? So then I need to continue to be very authentic with what I produce. Not what I think people will want, but what I produce out of myself, you know? And I think that's what makes me, I guess, so engaging or I'm so engaged in what it is that I do, just that self-awareness and understanding what's happening around me and what's going on inside. Hopefully that answered the question. I'm not sure.
What are the things that you are doing for your own fun, outside the art, outside work,
Mm-hmm.
outside helping?
Yeah, for fun, okay, this is gonna sound weird, but for fun, I do like to help people like with rebrand. I know it sounds weird.
So
I
you
know it
like
sounds
helping
weird.
so much that it becomes second
Well,
nature and
it's
fun.
right. It's just it'll be a random moment. So like if someone's, you know, they're trying to put out their work, whether they're a psychologist or a doctor's office or something, and I'll see it, I'm like, oh, if you do this and that, you would have more engagement, people would be clicking more or whatever. So that's like a fun little moment because I get to like be creative. But outside of that, dancing is huge for me. Dancing is huge. If it wasn't for this design program, I probably would have majored in dance. So just dancing, creating dances, choreographing dances for myself and sometimes people in the community, depending on what's going on in the community. Dancing, writing, going to live music sessions. We call them jam sessions. It's
Wow.
when different musicians from around the world, they'll come to New York City and they'll just play. It's like improvisational music playing. And I love to attend those things. Can't now because of quarantine, but when
So
we're
you
out.
are engaged in singing in the jam as an artist and as a member of the the team that makes the
Oh,
jam.
no, I'm just a supporter. I do sing. I sing at church. I sing at different events. But for the jam sessions, I just let the professional musicians and singers play. I'm just a supporter. I sometimes do background vocals on different like albums and records and stuff, but that's really very background. So anything like artistic is really fun for me. Dancing, cooking. I started to love cooking recently because of this quarantine. Again, I had more time to really make food. Before I would just go to work and buy food while I'm there, but it's so important to really know what's going into your body and to make it, you know, that way I don't have to
And
wonder.
what was the most creative dish that you have cooked?
Oh man, I've experimented with so much. Um, Creative. Maybe this pasta dish that I didn't expect would turn out nicely. So the pasta itself was made with like plant protein and wheat. It had like broccoli, kale, and three other zucchini, like that was in the pasta. So it
Mm-hmm.
was this green pasta instead of just being white flour. That was in the pasta, and then I cut up all these veggies and I seasoned them in the way because I'm vegan now. So I remember back then when I wasn't that seasoning is huge, especially for a Jamaican. Season is a big deal, and so I would still use the same seasoning that I would use from like my Jamaican culture but in this newer dish. So like cutting up all the veggies and sauteing them properly. And it ended up being really good. I didn't know what it was going to taste like because I think that was one of my first times making a homemade vegan dish, but using like my Jamaican cuisine, like those
Sounds
flavors.
delicious and colorful.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, and my mom says if you have all the colors on your plate, that's how you know it's a good meal. Yeah,
It's healthy.
yes.
Oh, okay. And when you dance, when you create, when you sing,
Mhm.
how do you connect the moment with life around you, or are you just with yourself, or are you thinking of anything else?
Yeah, that's big. When I dance before, it was usually to things, whether it's instrumental or it has lyrics. I would actually be thinking of myself as the person that's singing it, but with my body. So I'm so what I would go through my mind, especially when I teach, I would say, imagine if everyone that's watching you was deaf. They could not hear the words. How would you use your body to speak the words for them without using
You're singing with your body when you're playing the guitar?
Oh, you mean with the guitar? Well, with the
Yes.
guitar.
I
Oh,
was envisioning something very, very creative.
with dance, I do that, like poetry, but with the guitar, it's similar. Yeah, because I have in my mind what it is I'm saying or what it is I'm feeling. Like if I feel like if it's maybe I'm expressing something that makes me really sad or made me really sad or frustrated. If I'm playing the guitar and I wait for that chord that sounds like that kind of sad chord. They say minor chords. Are you in music at all? Do you do music
uh,
theory?
no, no.
No? Okay. So
I
there,
I had a very short experience in school with the guitar, but it was for the communist folk representations, and not in depth, and not in
oh,
so in touch with the music itself, but for idolatric purpose.
right, right.
I
Okay.
left it behind.
Okay. Okay, yeah, because when you have something on your mind, like what you're saying, then if you're really connected to that thing, that concept or that thought, then it will come out of whatever you're doing. So especially playing the guitar, I'll listen for that sound that feels like a little bit more like the same way when people turn on a song and it's like "duh, duh, 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 duh," and so you feel like up and lively, but then you feel like dum dum, like that lower kind of sound, and it
Mhm.
gives you a whole nother feeling. You may not even feel that way. You'll be happy, and then you'll hear that dum dum, and it brings you to that memory or that place where you felt low, but not in a bad way. It just connects you with your experiences. And I think that's where it starts. Like internally, I'm like, this is what I'm saying. And so if I'm playing the guitar, if I'm singing, or if I'm dancing, it comes out, and my body like expresses that. Mm-hmm.
Could you play a little bit
Oh,
for us,
oh
just to
my
give us
God.
the feel, the vibe, the positive vibe that you have?
So
Practice it.
I'm 100% not ready to play live with
you
the guitar.
you
I
just
wish I
told me
was.
that the guitar is next to next to
It
you.
is. It is there. It is there. It's definitely there. But just like tuning, and I would want to like rehearse a little bit because I'm really like I call myself a beginner. So I understand the music part, but the finger positioning, I'm definitely a beginner. Maybe I'll like record something one day and just like send it to you. That way you
Yes.
can
Okay.
that way you can
It will
share.
be inspiring to hear and to send us the good vibes also
Yeah.
in singing it through the chords.
Yeah, I never thought of that. That's a really good idea. I did not think of that. I wasn't thinking of sharing that in that way, but I think maybe I should. I have more time now. I should do that. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, and now as a finish line of our interview,
Mhm.
I ask you, Michelle, to complete the sentence. Me, Michelle, I am, with a single word.
The single word. Uh Oh my gosh. Me, Michelle, I am victorious.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
powerful. Thank you for being with us with your inner vibe that is contagious and that gives power. And thank you for your warmth and for this beautiful interview. If you have taken one idea, one creative spark from this discussion with Michelle, I invite you to click the link and donate to the hospital. It's been
Yeah.
a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's definitely been my pleasure too. You're such a gentle and warm and inviting person. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's a privilege for
We
me.
will follow your site and your creative pieces. We
Oh,
will
yes.
note. I will put them in the description. And
Okay.
let's keep in touch. It was a
Yes.
pleasure.
Thank you. Ah, so beautiful. Thank you.